Horas de investigación para ver su vestimenta, ya sea normal como militar de la época. Quisiera hacer un personaje revolucionario debido a que Herb conoce mucha historia mexicana, nos admira mucho porque tenemos mucha cultura, mucha riqueza en lo que es la literatura, al bien que también tenemos una lucha como todo el mundo sabe. Se han hecho personajes mexicanos, pero de manera hollywoodense. Dice que está bien, pero si quiere traer o quiere dar vida a un carácter mexicano, sí necesitaría mucha investigación acerca de la vestimenta que tenían en esa época y hiciera un personaje no con superpoderes, sino al estilo de Batman, que tenga super habilidades físicas o que sea bien entrenado en todas las artes en lugar de tener algún tipo de superpoder. Menciona que también necesita ser un personaje que tenga compasión, no como los personajes de los héroes americanos, que no tienen compasión, sino que se tratan como del tipo macho, hacen las cosas bien y a veces o mal, como Wolverine en dados casos, cuando le falta un poco de corazón. Pero sí quiere hacer un personaje que represente también a nosotros los mexicanos.
Hay muchos personajes de Marvel de los que podemos hablar, pero yo quisiera escuchar sus preguntas. Por aquí hay gente que ha estado levantando la mano. Por favor, no sé, creo que nos faltan micrófonos. ¿Tenemos más micrófonos? Funciona. Sí, yo voy personalmente, no se preocupen.
A ver, ¿quién tiene preguntas?
Creo que sí funciona.
Sí, sí.
It's an honor to be with you. Sorry for my English, it's not so good, but I want to ask you about the Marvel Universe. I think there are some things that you don't have to touch, like the memory of Wolverine, the mask of Spider-Man, what else? To reborn Bucky. There are some things that you don't have to touch, in my opinion, and Marvel started to touch that things just for the sales. What do you think about that? I think there are some irrelevant, how can you say, some stuff that you don't have to touch in some universe in the comics, and they start to use them. I like the stories now, but I think they don't have to touch some stuff. They can reborn maybe Captain America. It's okay, but there's some stuff. Bucky, there's the set that only Bucky dies forever. Yes. You cannot touch. You can touch everyone, but not. You cannot touch the mask of Spider-Man. You cannot touch the memory of Wolverine, and they do that. And I think it's just for the sales. But the stories, I like the Marvel Universe right now.
¿Cómo te llamas, perdón?
Eduardo.
Eduardo menciona que hay muchas cosas en el universo Marvel o los estudios Marvel de hoy en día que tocaron acerca o que no se pueden tocar, como la máscara de Spider-Man, el uniforme de Wolverine, cosas icónicas que se han visto dentro de los cómics, pero que el universo Marvel hoy en día ha estado cambiando acerca de las películas. ¿Eso es a lo que me refieres?
Sí, un poquito. Sí,
One thing, there is actually an advantage of changing things to work for sales. it makes sure that you continue to get the book rather than having canceled because of bad sales. So although you might not agree with it, I mean, I just wanted to make one remark about the Marvel Universe as we have come to know it. And it was a nightmare, especially the more titles that were coming out in the 80s. It was a nightmare to work plots and stories that didn't step on somebody else's feet in another story. And I think the concept, it restricts you, it ties you down. The truth is, I mean, you know, it's obvious that the world of Superman and the world of Batman are two different worlds. They do not live in the same universe. They're parallel universes. Needless to say, Wonder Woman or someone along those lines. And so I think just the concept itself of having everything being in the same real world, which is not the real world anyway, this is the real world. You know, we don't, there's someplace else. But going back to what you originally said, you know, I mean, I'm getting to the point where I can't stand anything changing that I'm used to. But I think for the purposes of continuing the title in print, so that the fans have the book in hand, you know, I think it's one you kind of have to deal with it, basically. It's one of the realities in publishing.
Bueno, las ventajas son para el cómic más que nada, debido a que, por ejemplo, en 1980 era muy difícil, o era era muy difícil controlar las historias de todos los personajes que salían en ese momento, cuando tú tenías una línea de tiempo para entregar un cómic, y ciertamente a veces tenías que chocar con otro personaje de otra historia, por la misma cantidad de tiempo para que tuviera secuencia lo que era la serie en ese tiempo, en lo que podríamos llamarle las sagas que existían en ese tiempo. Menciona que obviamente no es como el universo DC, que Batman tiene su propio mundo, Superman tiene su otro propio mundo, aunque son paralelos, son muy diferentes. Lo que puede hacer Marvel es de que, como existe en el mundo, o como es este mundo real, trata de tomar todos los aspectos de este mundo para que se refleje en el mundo de los cómics y no al revés. Lo que podría cambiar, ciertamente hoy en día no es muy posible que lo cambie él, pero continúa o tenía la misma continuidad cuando él hacía los cómics en su época.
Siguiente pregunta. Bueno. How it was the meeting with Stan Lee when they asked you to do the Hulk, and what things do you improve to the character before that meeting?
La pregunta es, ¿cuál fue la reacción que tuvo Herb cuando fueron todo el conjunto creativo para estar con Stan Lee y los demás guionistas y artistas para crear a Wolverine en ese día? Al Hulk, perdón.
When I first started working at Marvel, I really didn't know one character from the other. I wasn't a superhero fan. I didn't know Stan Lee from Jim Lee or Bruce Lee. I just know, you know, it was a job. I had a job in New York City. But I worked in the production department to begin with, and I did some inking work on the side. And actually, I started inking some Western titles freelance. And that kind of ran out because they weren't doing so well. And I got offered a job on staff doing, in the production department, doing production work with the offer that on the side, if some extra work came up, like inking work, I would be able to do that and make some extra money. So I did that for about 6 months or so, not quite a year. Dates don't really matter, but might have been 6 or 8 months, and I was working in the bullpen as one of, just with a handful of people. We only had maybe a dozen people in the whole office, including Stan and a receptionist. And he stuck his head in the cubicle and he said, "Hey, Trimpe." And, right away I thought, uh-oh, trouble, because I was always getting into trouble working in the office. I'm kind of like, I talk too much. And even though we made a lot of noise in the bullpen and people did a lot of laughing and something, he would always come in and say, "Trimpe, can you quiet it down a little bit?" So I was always the butt of jokes concerning my inability to be quiet and to let people work. But anyway, he stuck his head in the office and in our cubicle, and he wanted to know if I was interested in drawing the Hulk. Now, in those days, the Hulk was one of the top sellers, but out of about, I think we were doing a total of about 18 titles, including reprints at the time, and to me it was basically more work. It would mean that I would have some steady work doing one particular thing, not jumping around a whole lot. And I said, yeah, Stan, that's fine, because Marie Severin had been on it. She was moving up somewhere to some other job. And I said, that's fine. So I still stayed in the production department for maybe a couple of months, doing the Hulk on the side and doing my production work, during the office hours. And it got to a point where I was starting to pick up a little more extra work on the side. Maybe somebody'd be late and they'd need a job finished, and it got to be too much to do the production work alone. So he actually suggested one day, Stan did, he said, why don't you, at that time I was living in the city, he said, why don't you just work at home and bring the work in, and we'll get somebody else to run the copy machine and do the cut and paste stuff. And I had mixed feelings about it because we had so much fun in there, and at home I would be all by myself. And but I thought, well, maybe I'll get more work done, and of course more work meant more money. And so I said, yeah, okay, Stan, I'll do that. So I wound up working it out of a studio in a small apartment in New York City.